Accordion in France, guitar in Spain, bouzouki in Greece, and bandura in Ukraine. Mykola Hvozd dedicated his entire life to this musical instrument. Watch next in the program Ukraine on Stage, Maestro and his significance in the history of Ukrainian culture. The bandura for Ukrainians is not only a musical instrument, it is also a symbol of Ukraine and Ukrainian culture. The national honored Chapel of Bandura Players of Ukraine played an important role in promotion of this folk art form. Bandura player, bandmaster and composer Mykola Hvozd headed the Chapel of Bandura Players for about 30 years. Mykola Hvozd was born in Dnipropetrovsk, finished the Dnipropetrovsk Music School and entered the Kyiv Music Conservatory. After graduating from the conservatory, he started working at the Chapel of Bandura Players of the Kyiv Polytechnic Institute, the Ministry of Culture of Ukraine, and headed a studio at the Chapel of Bandura Players of Ukraine. In 1977, he became the art director of the chapel. In 1997, the chapel earned the status of a national chapel. Merited Artist of Ukraine, laureate of Taras Shevchenko National Prize, Mykola Hvozd toured throughout Switzerland, Poland, Germany, Russia, Japan, Canada, France, Spain, and Argentina. My father was only 8 when he started playing the bandura. During the war, his family was in evacuation. When they returned to Dnipropetrovsk in 1942, they saw the ruined city. But despite the difficult time, the parents tried to engage their children in art. This is how my father ended up joining the ensemble of bandura players. Having finished music school, my father entered the Kyiv Music Conservatory. It was the so-called Kyiv period in his career.
Закінчивши музичне училище, він поступив в Київську консерваторію. І ось тут почалася така, скажімо...
During his student days, he headed several music collectives. His greatest love at the time was the Chapel of Bandura Players of the Kyiv Polytechnic Institute. My father headed the collective for about 25 years.
5 самодіяльних колективів. Його любов – це капела бандуристів Київської політехніки, яку він очолював майже 25 років.
This work was very hard because the chapel consisted of admirers who needed to be taught to play the bandura. There were many such collectives in the life of Mykola Hvozd. To make bandura an honored and popular instrument in the world was the main goal that Mykola Hvozd strived to achieve. Of course, Mykola Hvozd achieved great success while heading the National Chapel of Bandura Players of Ukraine. Although Hvozd managed such a prominent collective, he also tried to help different ensembles and chapels.
З 91-го року по 2006
From 1991 to 2006, my father headed the Chapel of Bandura Players titled Vyshivanka in France. At different times, it consisted of about 50 participants.
В різний час були долучені 40, майже 50 учасників. Це були і, скажімо, люди із діаспори української, так само.
Among them, there were musicians from the diaspora as well as non-Ukrainians. He also cooperated with the Dnipro ensemble from Great Britain.
З Великої Британії.
Його можна отожнювати навіть із Василем Ємцем, який взагалі організував національну...
Mykola Hvozd can rank with Vasil Yemets, who founded the chapel in 1918. Now it is the National Chapel of Bandura Players. Mykola Hvozd was dedicated to the chapel and was concerned about the bandura as an instrument. It resulted in conflicts with the management. Working at the Ministry of Culture of Ukraine, he did everything possible so that musicians would play the bandura on a big stage, taught bandura playing at schools, and promoted its development in Ukraine.
Скажімо, площадок. Він саме на це
In Soviet times, the Soviet authorities did not approve of bandura playing. There wasn't a single bandura school in Ukraine where this instrument could be studied and developed. It was Hvozd who did everything possible in order that the Chernihiv factory of musical instruments produce the bandura in sufficient quantities. Continuing Minkivsky's traditions, Hvozd traveled around Ukraine to select talented young people and teach them to play the bandura in a studio.
Він був ще і диригентом у Міньківського Олександра Захаровича.
He worked not only in a studio, but also as a bandmaster together with Alexander Minkivsky. Having held the position of head of the chapel, my father didn't change Minkivsky's concept. He presented the bandura to the whole world in order that this instrument would not look like a piece of property, but be shown as a truly difficult instrument to master.
В повній мірі показувалося на сцені, щоб це не бутафорія була, а справжнє виконання на цьому інструменті.
І оцей баланс між хором чоловічим, де стоїть армада в 65 чоловік, 70, і акомпонуючі інструменти, так само всі граючі, він внес.
He succeeded to establish a balance between a choir and accompanied instruments, whereas earlier, singing of the male choir prevailed over bandura accompaniment. It was Hvozd who increased the number of banduras in a choir and started developing an orchestral score.
Привніс достатньо серйозний вклад в те, що він почав розбудовувати саме оркестрову партитуру. Сказати, що теперішній
I would like to say that establishment of the art center is his merit. When builders choose a place where to construct a building for the chapel, Hvozd offered an idea to gather creative collectives in one premises. In Soviet times, he personally went to Moscow to agree on this matter.
будівлі.
Mykola Hvozd was not only a talented manager, but also a talented composer. Lots of music arrangements written especially for the chapel became well known around the world.
Для капели бандуристів
My father wrote music for the National Chapel of Bandura Players and other chapels. He developed lots of books, ranging from textbooks for music schools to collections of music compositions for different collectives, including a state chapel. He also wrote music pieces for every ensemble, taking into consideration their ability for music, and those collectives always performed the music in the best way.
І завжди ці колективи виглядали як найкраще.
Він написав багато і обробок, багато аранжувань. Він підняв.
He was one of the first who started to make settings to music by Kirill Stutsenko, Brothers Pray on Holy Sunday. He had a fine taste in choir singing, in particular male choirs, although he wasn't a chapel master by education. He was one of the initiators of the establishing of the Cossacks group at the chapel.
Він знав всю оркестрову, бо створив, фактично при ньому був створений гурт «Козаки».
At different times, such outstanding singers as Ivan Kozlovsky, Boris Hnyria, and Bela Rudenko cooperated with the chapel. Mykola Hvozd got in with Anatoly Solovyanenko, Diana Petronenko, Dmitro Gnatyuk, and Maria Stefanuk. Lots of archival recordings, audio discs, and movies were made with the participation of the singers. The chapel continues this tradition to this very day.
Скажімо, якийсь такий пієтет в мене лишився перед ним до останніх наших моментів спілкування.
I felt pity towards him up to the last moments of his life, and even today, he remains an authoritative man for me. He gave me the possibility to develop and realize myself in many spheres of creative work. It just so happened that Dmitro Popeychuk and Vasil Popaduk, who managed the instrumental group, were on a friendly basis with my father.
Склалося по житті, що Дмитро Попійчук, що Василь Попійчук. Вони були дуже в близьких стосунках.
Mykola Hvozd understood that people also enjoyed attending concerts to amuse and entertain themselves. For this reason, the concert program of the chapel most definitely had to include dancing melodies.
Але, скажімо, і по селах, і по маленьких містечках, і все, ну, там приймали на ура. Бо характерні
The
пісні.
chapel was welcomed in villages and big cities. Music pieces known among average people, Ukrainian folk songs or melodies, made up the majority of a concert program.
Для філармонійних концертів, які відбуваються і ходять фахово люди підготовлені, то туди все-таки привозились більше традиційні українські народні пісні і, безумовно, на ура. Вихід його просто на сцену, і от він там 3-4 твори продиригує.
Mykola knew the audience's likings. In the closing stages of his life, when he was seriously ill, he could sense the audience's mood after playing 3 or 4 music compositions.
Не достає. Мені дуже важко виступати.
We miss him very much. It is not easy for me to perform now in a philharmonic hall, because it was a significant place for my father.
Подумки повз наші цимбали проходить.
От кажуть, що людину на протязі життя його прізвище будує. Оце якраз оцей цвях, оцей гвоздь, він якраз стержень залізний, який фактично...
It is said that a name creates a person. Hvozd was like an iron bar which he carried through the entire life and in all his creative work. And the main thing is love to the bandura. Over the last 35 years, I can say that only 2 men, Mykola Hvozd and Mykola Bashtan, were dedicated to the bandura. They put all their efforts to promote this instrument in Ukraine.
Був зав кафедрою народних інструментів Баштан, який помер. Оце 2 фанатично віддані людини, які до бандури прикладали всі зусилля до такого інструменту, щоб його отримав він розбут в нашій країні.
The National Mykola Bandura Chapel of Ukraine is a flagship of national Ukrainian culture. Mykola Hvozd gave his power, knowledge and talent to make the collective one of the best not only in Ukraine, but also throughout the entire world. He did everything possible to make the bandura a popular musical instrument. He succeeded in doing that. The number of ensembles of bandura players is rapidly increasing, and the sounds of a bandura can be heard not only on the academic scene, but also in pop music and even at rock concerts.
Наші розмови були, я ні про що не жалію.
The last conversation with him was that he had done everything he could and wanted in his life. He dreamt of bringing the bandura to a high academic stage, and he did. I want to say that very few people, including my father, have done so much to popularize the bandura, both in Ukraine and abroad.